So we're almost a month into the 2026 NBA season, and we saw a lot of notable changes in the 2025 offseason. Something I love to do every year is just to do a quick early season check-in on how those moves are paying off so far. So yeah, we are going to grade how the big free agency signings and some of the big trades from the 2025 offseason have looked with their new teams. And like always, you can let me know what you agree with or disagree with down below, and maybe there's a move that I didn't talk about that you think has been exceeding expectations, let me know, or maybe there's a move that is just not working out whatsoever that I don't mention, also let me know down below. And if you guys do enjoy the content, I'd appreciate you dropping a thumbs up. All my social links are in the description as well: Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. And why don't we start off with maybe the biggest move that happened in the 2025 offseason: Kevin Durant getting traded from the Phoenix Suns to the Houston Rockets in exchange for Jalen Green, Dillon Brooks, and the 10th overall pick in the draft, who ended up being Kaman Maluach. Now, this ended up getting bundled into a 7-team trade, so we're only going to talk about those 3 assets going back to Phoenix. And as expected, this trade is working out so far for the Houston Rockets. It really does stink that Fred VanVleet tore his ACL later in the offseason, so we're not seeing this team at full strength right now, but Houston is off to a good start this year. They've looked great offensively. They are the best 3-point shooting team in the NBA, and then that's largely in part of Kevin Durant's 3-point shooting and how much focus opposing teams' defense have to worry about Kevin Durant in the half court, which allows a little bit more of an open look for Reed Shepherd, Atari Eason, or maybe an Alperu Şengün. Kevin Durant this year is averaging 24.5 points, 4.5 rebounds, 3 assists a night. He's shooting 49% from the field, 41% from 3, and 87% from the free throw line, and he just turned 37 years old. It looks like he hasn't slowed down yet. He at least has one more elite year with the Houston Rockets. He's been healthy so far for Houston this year, and this team is deeper and a little bit less reliable in the regular season on Kevin Durant than Phoenix was last year. So hopefully KD is just healthier this season, because he was so good for Phoenix and their hot start in 2025. And then when he got hurt, everything kind of crumbled down. Hopefully that doesn't happen in Houston, but I believe in Şengün and Ben Thompson and the complementary pieces here in Houston, where they're going to be just fine. And also, Kevin Durant signed a very team-friendly extension with the Rockets right before the season started. 2 years, $90 million. Kevin Durant's going to be making $45 million after the season for the next 2 years, which is a big discount because we thought he was going to make close to $60 million a year. And that can allow Houston get a little bit more flexibility. I think so far this trade is looking as advertised. It's an A. And this has also worked out for the Phoenix Suns so far. I don't think we've seen the dividends pay off as much in Phoenix, but I'm going to give them a B+ here. Kaman Maluach still looks like somewhat of a project in this league. I think he's eventually going to get a lot more minutes in the second half of the year, but he's got a long ways to go until he takes the starting job from Mark Williams, who has been good for them this year. Unfortunately, Jalen Green has only played 2 games for the Phoenix Suns and is currently nursing a hamstring injury. He looked good in his first game against the LA Clippers. And Dillon Brooks has also struggled a little bit within the 3-point line and even with his 3-point shot this year, but I do think he's going to be just fine over the course of the year. He's also nursing some injuries right now, but I do think in the macro view, this looks like it's going to be a good trade for the Phoenix Suns. They got a little bit deeper. They didn't really need Kevin Durant for their timeline right now, and the Suns have been exceeding expectations this year, so I'm giving them a B+. Now, a trade I can't be as positive on: the Denver Nuggets acquiring Cam Johnson. I love this trade when it happened, and unfortunately Cam Johnson has been banged up this year, and we're only looking at this in the Cam Johnson lens, so I know they saved some money to go out and get Valanciunas, Hardaway, Bruce Brown, but we're just looking at Cam Johnson's impact so far, and I have to give it a D. He has not been great this year to start off for the Denver Nuggets. It's only 11 games. It's an overreaction, but you can start to be a little bit worried on how he's going to adapt with Nikola Jokic. He's averaging just 7 points this year, 2 rebounds, 1 assist a night. He's shooting 37% from the field, 21% from 3. Obviously, he's not going to shoot 21% from 3 this year. Cam Johnson is a career 39% 3-point shooter, but it just looks uncomfortable for him getting to his spots in the Denver Nuggets offense, which has been excelling this year. You have arguably the best player in the world in Nikola Jokic. Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon have stepped up this year. You definitely need Cam Johnson to be playing a little bit better, or at least be a better playmaker or defender, because we're not seeing that on display right now. He unfortunately suffered an arm injury against the LA Clippers, so hopefully he's not going to be out too long, but they traded away Michael Porter Jr. and an unprotected first-round pick to get Cam Johnson. He's looked nowhere near what he did in the first half last year with the Brooklyn Nets. Maybe that was just a flash in the pan because he was in a higher usage role and he was going to come back down to earth a little bit, but this has been one of the worst pickups so far in the offseason. We're still only about 10 games in, but for Brooklyn, I'm going to give this a B+. Dare I say a team could actually trade for Michael Porter Jr. I thought he had to stay on this contract in Brooklyn. Nobody wants to trade for a $40 million a year guy, and maybe that still stays true, right? Maybe Michael Porter Jr. gets bought out next year at the deadline, or maybe when it's an expiring in the offseason, they could look to move him. He's making $38 million this year, $40 million in 2027. Well, Michael Porter Jr. so far this year for the abysmal Brooklyn Nets, who are tanking right now for AJ, Boozer, or Peterson, he's averaging 23 points, 7 rebounds, 2.5 assists a night. He's shooting 46% from the field, 35% from three, 84% from the free throw line. He's taking about 17 shots a night so far for the Brooklyn Nets. And I applaud you Nets fans kind of watching this team right now off to their terrible start. And Michael Porter Jr. and Cam Thomas were getting a lot of offensive looks. Their rookie class hasn't shown too much yet. We've gotten a good game out of Yegor and Drake Powell so far. And Michael Porter Jr. is knocking down difficult shots because there is not many shot creators in Brooklyn right now. And Cam Thomas is currently injured. So there's going to be a huge workload of Michael Porter Jr. throughout the first half of the year. He's 27 years old. He's still one of the best three-point shooters in the NBA. Yeah, you don't really like him as a passer or as a defender at times, but he's 6'10". He's elite from three, like I said, and he can score in a bunch of different ways. It would be really interesting to see if a team would trade for Michael Porter Jr. Like I said, with the large contract, maybe that ends up happening in the offseason, but the fact that we're even talking about this, plus Brooklyn got an unprotected Denver pick in 2032, this is definitely warrant of a B+ so far. Now let's go to the Desmond Bane trade. This went down kind of on a random Sunday in June, and this one was surprising when it happened. Desmond Bane went to Memphis for salary filler and KCP, Cole Anthony, and essentially 4 first-round picks. The most coveted one has to be the Phoenix Suns first-round pick this year, which maybe does not look as good as maybe we thought on paper. Who knows how the rest of the season is going to go or how the lottery is going to go. And for Orlando, I'm going to give this a C so far. There's been some good, there's been some bad. Desmond Bane had an electric game-winning shot against Portland this year. Orlando was off to an iffy start, but they've looked better over the last few games. Paolo Banchero went down against their game against the New York Knicks, and Desmond Bane stepped up. He had 22 points, 8 assists. He's shooting still 43% on the season, 30% from three. And I thought it was a weird adjustment period for Desmond Bane in Orlando. He was driving and creating a ton for Franz and Paolo. I kind of want that to be the opposite. I want Franz and Paolo having the ball in their hands, attacking the rim, and then you have one of the best three-point shooters in the NBA on the perimeter in Desmond Bane. And when you look at Orlando's on-off metrics, they're pretty much the same when Desmond Bane is on the floor and when he is off the floor. We're still in the adjustment period because if you remember, the Knicks were in this last year when they gave up a ton of draft capital for Mikal Bridges. So yeah, right now there's been some good, there's been some bad. It's early, going to give it a C. As for Memphis, I'm going to give this a B-. With Phoenix playing a little bit better than expected, this could hurt them a little bit. They were able to use that first-round pick from Orlando in the 2025 draft and a future one to move up with Portland to go get Cedric Howard. So that's been a positive here. But KCP has been abysmal for them. They bought out Cole Anthony, so they're getting basically no player return in exchange for Desmond Bane. And KCP is also scheduled to make $21.6 million next year. It's a player option. I'm no Shams, but he's going to opt into that. So since they traded up for Coward, they have the Suns first rounder this year and one more down the line, as well as another swap. So we're not going to know the result of this trade for a little bit, but Memphis is pretty bad this year. I have no idea if they're going to trade away Ja Morant and actually strip this down, because if they do, it would have made sense for them to trade away Desmond Bane last offseason. So a C for Orlando, B- for Memphis. One of the more riskiest moves of the 2020s happened last offseason when the Milwaukee Bucks waived and stretched Damian Lillard. They said he's not going to play for us this year. We need to save some money to go out and get Miles Turner and steal him from their division rival, the Indiana Pacers. They then proceeded to give Miles Turner a 4-year deal north of $100 million. And I'm actually giving this an A so far. The Milwaukee Bucks look solid to start off the year. And I know their record isn't the best right now, but Giannis has been banged up to start off the year. They're still figuring things out. Miles Turner is far from perfect. He's averaging 12 points, 6 rebounds, but he's shooting 37% from three, and having a big man that can space the floor is very crucial around Giannis Antetokounmpo, who can't space the floor. But now you just have one non-shooter out there rather than multiple, and Miles Turner is still a positive defensively. He's better defensively this year than what Brook Lopez was for them last year. So this is an upgrade from Brook Lopez last year, and Damian Lillard was going to give you nothing this year. Miles Turner is at least giving you something and being a quality starter. Is he a little bit overpaid? Maybe, but he's been a solid player this year for the Milwaukee Bucks. The goal of the offseason was to convince Giannis to stay, and if Miles Turner could just help you maybe win a playoff game or two, that's more than Damian Lillard would have. And if that can convince Giannis to stay, yeah, this is going to be an A for the Milwaukee Bucks all year long. But if they start to crater a little bit and maybe Miles Turner isn't playing the best, we could definitely drop this grade. I might be generous with this one, but for Kristaps Porzingis going to the Atlanta Hawks, I'm going to give this one a B-. I know Kristaps hasn't been super efficient this year. He's shooting 43% from the field, 31% from three. His three-point rate has dropped a ton from last year's season. He's pretty much just being a full-time center for this team. And he's been solid around the rim, but him shooting 50% on 2-pointers isn't great for somebody that is 7'2", and we're not going to see him so far without Trae Young, at least for the next few weeks, since Trae Young got hurt in their 5th game this season. But they basically gave up the 22nd overall pick, Terrence Mann, to go out and get Kristaps Porzingis, so I still think you're getting good value there. I still think KP's been solid defensively. Now, if Kristaps is not on this team after this year, he doesn't get better from 3, this could definitely drop a little bit, because hey, Drake Powell's an intriguing player. Terrence Mann has actually been solid this year for the Brooklyn Nets, and I really like what I've seen out of Onyeka Okongwu, so I hope KP just doesn't stop his development going forward. But I think KP's been fine. They didn't give up a ton to get him. I'm giving it a B-. I can't really grade this for Boston. We know that they traded away Kristaps for salary dump purposes, and George Niang is no longer on this team. But we can talk about them for the Jrue Holiday trade. Well, let's first talk about the Portland Trailblazers side of things, who traded away Anthony Simons in a couple seconds to go out and get Jrue Holiday. I was like, why are they doing this? I don't think Portland is competing. You know what? I like this trade for them. Jrue Holiday has arguably been the best Portland Trailblazer this year, not named Deni Avdija. Jrue Holiday is averaging around 17 points, the highest of his career since 2023, his last year in Milwaukee. So we know that he at least had one more good offensive year in the tank. He wasn't going to have that in Boston because he was like the 4th or 5th option. Plus, he was injured last year. He's also averaging 5.5 rebounds and 8.5 assists a night, which would be his career high. In year number 17, he's shooting 45% from the field, 36% from 3, and 82% from the free throw line. He's been a great leader, a good defender for this team. This has been worth every penny. Now, it's still not the best contract in the world, right? He's making $34 million next year, $37 million in 2028, but you got Damian Lillard for $15 million in the offseason. Deni Avdija is under the best contract in the NBA. I think you can overpay Jrue Holiday by like 10 or so million over the next 2 years. This one is getting an A for me for Portland side of things. I questioned it at the time. It's working out right now. As for Boston, I'm going to give them a B here. I feel like I can grade this trade a little bit more than the Kristaps one, just because they actually got a player they're using right now, and that's Anthony Simons. Simons this year is still shooting poorly from 2. He is shooting just 42% on 2s this year, struggling around the rim, but he's been like that for most of his career. He's shooting 40% on 3s, 90% from the free throw line. He's averaging around 14.5 points and has came off the bench for the Boston Celtics this year. He's shooting 40% on non-corner 3s, which is exactly what Boston needs out of him this year. He's played a little bit of the 1, a little bit of the 2. They could probably re-sign him for a nice contract in the offseason if they wanted to go that route. Still just 26 years old. Yeah, it's going to get a B from me. I don't want to give any deals an A+ just yet, but this one is probably as close as you can get, just because they basically gave up nothing for him. We're going to talk about the Miami Heat side of the Norman Powell, John Collins 3-team deal. So Miami essentially traded away Kyle Anderson, who's not under a great contract, Kevin Love, who maybe shouldn't be playing in the NBA anymore, for Norman Powell, who has been a phenomenal piece for the Miami Heat this year. He's been banged up a little bit, but a decent sample size, around 10 games, 25 points per game. He's picking up the Miami Heat's offense because Tyler Hero is hurt right now. Bam has been banged up this year. Norman Powell is exactly the player he was last year for the LA Clippers, and we're seeing the Clippers really miss Norman Powell this year. We're going to get to their side of the trade and another move they made in the offseason in a little bit, but Powell is shooting 47% from the field, 46% from 3, 94% from the free throw line. It's still so early to talk about all-star games, but Norman Powell could definitely be an all-star here in 2026. I'm going to be really interested to see how he works with Tyler Hero when he comes back. Is he still going to average north of 24 a night? Either way, though, for what they gave up, this is a phenomenal trade for the Miami Heat. We're not really going to talk about the Utah Jazz side of things. We'll talk about the LA Clippers, who did basically trade away Norman Powell for John Collins, and then they used some of that savings to go out and get somebody else. But John Collins this year has been fine for the LA Clippers. I'm going to give this portion for them a B. Collins is averaging about 12 points this year, 5 rebounds. He's shooting 38% from 3. I wish he started earlier in the year for the LA Clippers, but Ty Lue did not allow that to happen. He started a little bit recently for the LA Clippers, although they've been one of the more disappointing teams in the NBA this season. I don't think Collins is a perfect player, and he's far from the main reason why the Clippers are struggling this year, but they're definitely missing Norman Powell, because their next move was to replace Norman Powell with Bradley Beal. And in the offseason, I didn't hate that idea. Bradley Beal at $50 million a year, I did not like that. The Phoenix Suns basically did what the Bucks did with Damian Lillard. They wave and stretch Bradley Beal to move in a different direction. The Clippers signed Bradley Beal on a 1+1. He was terrible in the 6 games he played in, and he's out for the year with a season-ending hip injury. So this is an F. I know that Bradley Beal is not playing at all this year. He's 32 years old. He'll be 33 in the summer going into next year. He averaged 8 points, less than a rebound a night, less than 2 assists a night. He shot 37% from the field. He shot 37% on 2s, 37% from the three-point line. He really liked the number 37, and he was playing like he was 37 out there. He was a terrible on-ball defender. He was a terrible help defender, and he was a terrible transition defender as well. The Clippers need youth. They need somebody that could pick up the offensive workload when Kawhi Leonard is hurt or James Harden is not in the lineup. And that's what Norman Powell was for them last year, and they were able to survive without those guys. And after moving on from Paul George in the offseason, Bradley Beal was not that guy whatsoever for the LA Clippers this year. It was a disaster decision right now, and we know he's not going to help them anymore going forward. Maybe this is going to be addition by subtraction given how bad he was defensively, but we're not going to really know how Bradley Beal could have been this year. So it's an F. All right, I want to talk about a draft pick trade that happened in the offseason where the Atlanta Hawks traded down in the draft from 13 to 23 with the Pelicans, and the Pelicans gave them the unprotected pick swap from New Orleans and Milwaukee this season. Unless Giannis suffers a major injury, I do not think the Bucks are going to be picking in the lottery, so this pick is most likely going to come from the New Orleans Pelicans, who are currently the 4th worst team in the NBA right now. Zion Williamson is already missing games. Jordan Poole is out of the lineup. DeJounte Murray will not be back until the second half of the year. So for Atlanta to move down and get Asa Newell, I like this for them. It's still an A right now. There's a chance that Atlanta could be picking in the top 3 while making the playoffs this year. And for New Orleans, I originally would have given them an F for this, but the way that Derek Queen has been playing over the last few weeks, I'm going to give this a C. Now, I don't think Derek Queen playing well and the Pelicans being bad are mutually exclusive. Derek Queen could finish second in Rookie of the Year voting, but the Pelicans could still give Atlanta a franchise-changing talent and a Darren Peterson and an AJ DeBanza or a Cameron Boozer. All 3 of those guys I like more long-term than Derek Queen. You could stomach a little bit giving up maybe pick 4, pick 5, but if that lands into the top 3, this is a disaster. So I can't really fully grade this one until we know where this pick ends up. That's why I'm giving it a C right now, because Derek Queen has been good as of late. He's averaging 11 points, 5.5 rebounds on the year. He just had his best game against a good Trailblazers defense, where he had 26 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists. I hope Willie Green starts him now. And Queen is still a raw player in the NBA, but you can see the flashes. This trade could just go one way for Atlanta and one way for New Orleans. We're going to have to wait and see. So it's an A for Atlanta. Still like this for them. It's a C for New Orleans because thank God Derek Queen has showed some flashes this year. I said I wasn't really going to give out A pluses, but I'm going to give out the Josh Giddey extension for Chicago an A+. So Cam Thomas and Quentin Grimes took the qualifying offers. Jonathan Kuminga took a weird deal from the Golden State Warriors. It's essentially a 1-year deal. So Josh Giddey was the only main restricted free agent that kind of lasted deeper into the offseason that signed a multi-year contract with this team. It's essentially $25 million a year on average for the next 4 years. And Giddey may be an all-star this year. He's averaging 21 points, 9.5 rebounds, 9 assists tonight, 46% from the field, and 38% from 3. Now, unfortunately, he got his ankles crossed the other night against the Cavs and actually hurt his ankle. So he's been dealing with that right now. Hopefully that doesn't affect his downhill speed and aggressiveness throughout the NBA season, because Giddey has been one of the best point guards in the Eastern Conference. You can kind of play him all over the court now if he can knock down threes, and he's doing that this year. Like I said, 30.5% from 3 on 4 attempts a night, so decent volume. And I actually think this is just a steal of a contract for the Chicago Bulls. So hey, Chicago, you did something right. A+ for you guys. And then the last move that I want to talk about was a trade that happened right before the draft. Essentially Jordan Poole for CJ McCollum. Now Kelly Olynyk and Sadiq Bey were also in this trade as well. And I don't really think it's worked out for either team right now. For the Pelicans, I'm giving them a D. Jordan Poole was not great before he ended up getting a knee injury the other night. He's shooting 35% from the field, 33% on threes, 37% on twos, not playing good defense out there. I wonder where his shots and minutes are going to come from when this team hopefully gets fully healthy at one point. I have no idea if we're going to see this team at full strength. And they also have to pay Jordan Poole an additional year as well. Now, Sadiq Bey has been good for this team, so this has been kind of a glimmer of hope from this trade. But at this point, they're going to just trade Sadiq Bey at the deadline. As for Washington, I'm going to give them a D+. I like this in the macro view just because CJ McCollum is an expiring contract. Jordan Poole had another year under his current deal. CJ McCollum has not been great for the Wizards this year. He had a good game against the Detroit Pistons when they lost in overtime. He's kind of stealing shots from some of the young guys. I feel like he's going to get bought out after the deadline. They're getting a D+ for this deal. I guess New Orleans was also able to get Micah Peavy, who hasn't shown much this year, and this was roped into the Cam Whitmore trade with the Houston Rockets, who I also don't know if he has a long-term future in the nation's capital. So that is going to be for me. I hope you guys did enjoy me grading the big offseason moves from this past summer. Let me know if you agree or disagree with anything. Let me know any opinions on players I didn't mention, maybe Russ, Al Horford, Dennis Schroeder, you name it. Let me know down below. Drop a thumbs up if you guys did enjoy. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.